So Kara, a lot of your points in your book and we've talked about directly apply when you are interacting day to day with people with disabilities. Yeah. Sometimes I work in a big office with about 90 people. Yeah. I connect with people in district offices who have levels of leadership around major budgets and finance and IT and property and human resources, communications, all that kind of stuff. So how do we make sure that the core values of what we've been talking about actually connect to their day-to-day activities, their day-to-day responsibilities, and that it's not just for direct support, but all of us have some shared responsibility.
We're all part of the success of it,
so
right?
what are some thoughts here, in terms of systems and processes?
Well, I think first of all, there isn't one perfect way. I mean, it is a complicated process, right? We have lots of ways that people are helping someone who is vulnerable have a great day. And it's not always just about the staff that are with them every day, right? Like you said, and I always say, I often use a metaphor, it's like a car, and you have maybe your daily staff or the tires of a car, but you still need the vehicle.
Right.
You still need an engine and gas and windshield wipers at work in Ontario, because I've experienced that. Yeah. And maybe a spare tire and so if that makes sense, I totally appreciate when you have that direct support, because those are your tires. Those are the ones that are literally and if they become flatter, then you need staffing and training to get them filled up again. So, but it is a vehicle that has to move together, and we can't disrespect the gas that goes in the car versus the engine that runs it versus the steering wheel that drives it. So, I think first to acknowledge that how lucky we are that we have organizations that work together, right? And so I think for sure then that whole vehicle is making decisions and choices and trying to meet the needs of people who are vulnerable. I think it's going to be complicated. But at the same time, always trying to go back to that. And I don't know if it's even too simple to say, does this decision harm or help?
Okay.
Now, obviously.
Harm or help belonging?
Harm or help the person as a whole.
Okay.
And maybe even specifically, you could look at two scenarios. Does it harm or help safety? But also, does it harm or help the ability for them to connect with others?
Right. Okay.
So I don't know if this example will help. So I visited a home one time, and on the very front door, typical home of a typical street, there was a warning sign that said, "Stop. Don't come in if you have been sick." And it was basically an Alberta health saying, be aware if you're sick. And I think probably Ontario has those kinds of things.
Well, in hospitals, for sure.
Everywhere in hospitals. Yeah. This was on a front door of a home of people who lived there who happen to have disabilities.
So welcoming. Come on in.
So I was invited for a meal. So I was very curious about that. So what's going on, right? Because I was like, this is very stereotype increasing. Long story short, some amazing people lived in that home. We had a great lunch. And all of a sudden I finally gently said, I'm curious, tell me about the signage, because the signage acts like there is some contagious disease.
Yeah.
It is from the hospital. It's the same document. Yeah. And it's on the front door. And the staffer said, well, sometimes staff come to work sick, and we really don't want that. Now I get that. I get it. And so we have harm help. We don't want staff to make someone sick. That is valuable and real.
Right.
There is a way to do that, though, that maybe isn't posting on the front door, because, help-wise, we don't want people to get sick. I get that. Harm, so that's safety-wise. If we look at the social side, you are now a barrier
absolutely
to helping that person connect to their neighbors.
Yes.
So that's a harm. So maybe safer health-wise, harm, isolation. And so we just have to, I think, juggle that idea, because in the end, all of these organizations and vehicles want people to be safe. That's pretty much basic where they come and go, is decisions about how they spend their day and what that looks like. I think then we just can't forget the social side. So it's not forgetting, just because people are physically safe does not always mean that they're going to be able to connect with others. Now, that's a kind of extreme example, but it happens. And I think, I've walked into places and they're like, oh, well, we have just a smaller sign. I'm like, let's maybe not put the signs on the front door.
No, let's figure out another way to communicate.
And then there's the answer. We just figure it out.
Yes.
It doesn't mean we ignore the issue. We just problem solve and figure it out. And I think that's the basis of my encouragement to any agency.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, and you think about our physical property, is our physical property set up to be hospitable? Do we have dining rooms? Do we have decks?
Yes.
Or do we just, like you were talking about the empty seat, is there enough chairs that you could actually invite people in?
Sure. Oh, for sure. I tell a story about that. I called a house one time, was stopping by, and they said, well, sorry, you can't come. We don't have any extra chairs. Oh. And so I was like, well, I'm coming. And in the end, they didn't mean that. That was never an intentional decision. And they fixed it and they bought a table. So if all problems could be that quick to fix, we'd be set. So sometimes we just do things without realizing the social consequence. And I guess that's my great passion. And what is the social consequence to some of the policies we make? And if that's a fair statement?